And some breaking news coming in. The law student who alleged sexual assault and rape by former BJP MP Chinmay Anand has been arrested by the SIT for attempt to extort money. Now, the student allegedly attempted to extort 5 crore rupees from Chinmay Anand, and she even moved an anticipatory bail plea before the Allahabad High Court, but the application was not accepted by the court. Let's remember, this coming in a day after the SIT submitted the status report into the probe in the rape case levelled against Chinmay Anand by this particular law student. The student now moved for anticipatory bail but has been turned down by the court. My colleague Alok joining me on the phone line with more. Alok, big development coming in as this student has been arrested and now taken to hospital for a medical test.
Yes, absolutely. And in fact, this is a big development happened in this case where the law student, in fact, who was the rape victim as well, she has been arrested by the SIT members, and in fact, she has been taken to the hospital from where she will be taken, from where her medical examination will be conducted, and from that place she will be taken to the court for to produce her before the court. But this arrest came following the case of attempt of extortion. Remember, in this case, SIT has already arrested 3 of her friends. And remember, there was a video came out in which the law student as well as her friends were seen talking about the extortion money. So police says that her arrest happened on the basis of that video, as well as there are some confessional statements made by her friends. So they have also arrested her, and police says that her further interrogation will be conducted into this case.
Right, Alok, and we also understand that the SIT just yesterday submitted their status report in the Allahabad High Court, and we understand that the High Court was actually satisfied with whatever that was submitted.
Yes, absolutely. Yesterday, SIT had submitted their status report of this whole matter. And remember, in this case, there were 2 separate cases were registered. One against Chinmay Anand, that was a sexual assault case. However, there was another case against law students. That was a case of attempt of extortion of rupees 5 crore. So SIT, after probe, they found out evidences in both the matters, and that is why they arrested accused person in both the cases. However, at that point in time, SIT had said that they were contemplating to take legal action against law students. So, and in fact, yesterday also, law student had also moved an anticipatory bail before the High Court. However, the court said that she should move the bail petition to the concerned court, that is the district court. So that is what we are getting to know today, when she was going to apply for the anticipatory bail at the district court. In the meantime, the SIT arrested her and taken her for the further interrogation into this case.
Right, Alok, thank you so much for bringing us those updates. We'll continue tracking the latest and come to you for more. And on to now our top focus this afternoon. The Reserve Bank of India has imposed restrictions on the Punjab and Maharashtra Cooperative Bank for a period of 6 months. Now, following these restrictions, the bank cannot disburse any fresh loan or open a fixed deposit. Now, in added trouble for the customers, they can only withdraw an amount of up to 1,000 rupees. Coming ahead of the festive season of Dussehra and Diwali for depositors and even regular customers, this is a bolt from the blue. And now let me quickly go across to my colleague Avni Raja, who is going to put this in perspective. Avni, what exactly did the RBI say, and why have they imposed these restrictions?
Well, Sanjana, the RBI circular which they've put out, the restrictions, rather the notice for these restrictions is here in my hand. And important to mention the first line here, because it very clearly says that the Reserve Bank of India has satisfied that in the interest of the public, it is necessary to issue certain directions to Punjab and Maharashtra Cooperative Bank Limited, Mumbai. So this essentially means that they have put the interests of the public, the interests of the people who have money with PMC Bank or are associated with PMC Bank in front at this point in time. And what the restrictions that have been imposed, they include the bank can't renew or give out any kind of fresh loans. It can't accept any fresh deposits. It is also not allowed to borrow any kind of funds. And this restriction is for a period of 6 months, during which time the Reserve Bank will review the entire process and will take calls as and when it deems fit. So these are the restrictions that have been put in place, and also goes on to say that this should not be misconstrued as cancellation of the bank license. So any kind of panic that may be setting in for borrowers or for customers of the bank should be rest assured that this doesn't mean that the bank license has been cancelled in any way. Now, just to give you also a sense of course, it is a cooperative bank, not very big, but at this point in time, the total deposits stand at about 11,600 crore. The total number of loans is at 8,300 crore, and net profit is almost 100 crore. And about the bank itself, it has about 137 branches and a staff of about 1,800 people is what the latest financial report says. That is as of March 31st, 2019. Now, as to why this is done, the Reserve Bank of India at times when it deems necessary puts these kind of restrictions in place for banks which it feels has financial irregularities, where it feels that the bank has certain loans that it doesn't have the ability to repay at this point in time, or if it feels that there are certain rules that the bank is not following. So these are some of the reasons why the Reserve Bank of India sort of puts these kind of restrictions in place. Of course, as far as this bank is concerned, we are yet to understand what is the exact reason why the RBI has put these restrictions. But for now, it is going to be a difficult time for customers, as you were pointing out, because they're restricted only to 1,000 rupees withdrawal. But at this point in time, there's no other choice but to accept these restrictions until and unless the bank and the Reserve Bank work out, and the Reserve Bank is convinced that the operations of the bank can continue as usual.
Right, Avni, thank you so much for putting that in perspective. Stay with us. Let me quickly also bring in my colleagues Santya and Mayuresh. Santya is joining us now from the Sion branch in Mumbai of the bank, and Mayuresh joining us from the Fort branch. Santya, I'm going to come to you first. We understand just moments ago you had a fair amount of panic-struck depositors who had rushed to these branches. Give us a sense of what's happening on ground. What have they been relayed to by the bank? Have they been told anything?
Sanjana, right now we are at Sion branch of PMC Bank, and you can see that all these people, they are depositors here. Some of them came early in the morning, and people are coming in. Absolutely, people are telling us that how they have come since 8:30 in the morning. So I would like to start from you. आपको कैसे मालूम पड़ा बैंक का, और आपको क्या बता रही है, ये लिमिट क्या बता रही है, कितना पैसा विड्रॉ कर सकते हैं?
1,000 रुपए 6 महीने में 6 महीने में
एक बार बोल रहे हैं आपको, या फिर रोजाना का
एक बार 1,000 रुपए निकल सकते हैं। 1,000 रुपए में क्या मिलने वाला है आपको?
आप लोगों को भी यही बोला गया कि 6 महीने में सिर्फ एक ही बार निकाल सकते हैं।
मैडम, वो लोगों ने SMS भेजा है, सवेरे 9:15 में हमको SMS आया। वो SMS देख के तो प्रॉब्लम हो गया। उसने इतना लिखने के बाद, और ये इतना पब्लिक का 130 ब्रांचेस करे, सीधा डायरेक्ट लिख के भेजा। 130 ब्रांच के नंबर ऑफ करोड़ रुपीस पब्लिक का काया, और ये पब्लिक का फंड ये कितना लोग मेहनत करके काया होएगा। आज एक दिन पब्लिक पूरा जमा हो जाएगा, कल दूसरा दिन ये पब्लिक आएगा, और ये इसको एक दिन में उसको तकलीफ सबको पुलिस लाया, तो 15 दिन के अंदर एक भी पब्लिक इधर नहीं रहेगा, चाहे मैं भी नहीं रहूंगा, क्योंकि दूसरा दिन मेरे को काम पे जाना है।
आप लोगों को क्या बता रहे हैं कि कितना आप विड्रॉ कर सकते हैं?
यहाँ पर सिर्फ 6 महीने में सिर्फ 1,000 रुपया, मतलब एक ही ट्रांजैक्शन 6 महीने में एक बार बोला है।
ये आपको बैंक वालों ने बताया?
बैंक वालों
हमारे प्राइम मिनिस्टर मोदी जी बोलते हैं कि बैंक में पैसा रखो और घर पे मत रखो, सेफ है। बैंक में 35 सेक्शन है, मतलब फ्रॉड ट्रांजैक्शन हुआ है, ठीक है। उसके लिए 3 बार नोटिस आने के बाद इनको जो है RBI ने बंद किया है। अगर हम घर पे रखे तो ब्लैक मनी, हमारे मोदी जी बोलते हैं घर पे रखे हो ब्लैक मनी, बैंक में रखो तो बैंक वाले फ्रॉड करते। इंसान पैसा रखे किधर? सबसे पहली चीज मैं मोदी जी से पूछना चाहता हूँ, हमारे प्राइम मिनिस्टर, हमने सोचा उनको जिताया कि कल को हमारा कुछ अच्छा हो, बट यहाँ पे देख रहा हूँ कि पब्लिक को लूटा जा रहा है। और RBI को एटलीस्ट 3 महीने पहले नोटिस आया, तो RBI को पब्लिक को भी बताना चाहिए था कि प्रॉब्लम है, ये बैंक में ट्रांजैक्शन रुक रहे। ये सेम चीज थाना में हुई है बैंक में, वो बैंक बंद हो चुका, ठीक है, उसके बाद 1.5 साल बाद बैंक
अचानक नहीं बंद होना चाहिए, एटलीस्ट एक नोटिस दे दो कि आपने कल पैसा क्यों डिपॉजिट करवाया सबसे। अगर आपको ये पता थी ये चीज़ होने वाली है, आपने पैसा क्यों लिया? या तो पहले आप बोल दीजिए कि आप पैसा डिपॉजिट मत कीजिए, कुछ इश्यूज है, आप पैसा क्यों डाला आपने?
अभी भी आपको कुछ क्लैरिटी मिल रही है क्या सर यहाँ पे कम्युनिकेशन वाइज?
अभी तो कुछ नहीं है कम्युनिकेशन, पैसे तो मिल नहीं रहे, हम लोग किधर जाएंगे खाने पीने के लिए, दवाई के लिए?
accepting the money if they know that why they people are accepting the money from us? Why? उनके पास तो है ना, पता है उनको कि होने वाला है, ये सब होने वाला है, तो पहले हमको नोटिस दो, 1 महीना पहले नोटिस दो, 15 दिन पहले नोटिस दो, क्यों नहीं दिया है वो लोगों ने? हम लोग 1,000 रुपए में महीना चलाएंगे या कैसा 6 महीना कैसे चलाएंगे? 1,000 रुपए में कौन सा ये होता है?
आपको सबको बोला गया 6 महीने में एक बार आप 1,000 रुपए निकालिए।
कोई श्योरिटी भी नहीं मिल रही है कि यहाँ से पैसा रिफंड आएगा कि नहीं। वो बोल रहे कि आएगा, बट हम बोले कि राइटिंग में कुछ दो, तो राइटिंग में भी नहीं दे रहे। और सेकंड थिंग, अगर किसी का ट्रांजेक्शन है और वो लाख रुपए या 1.5 लाख कुछ भी ट्रांजेक्शन कर रहा है, यहाँ से बिजनेस ट्रांजेक्शन कर रहा है, उसका जो चेक बाउंस होंगे, उसका सिविल डाउन होगा, उसकी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी कौन लेगा? और 6 मंथ अगर वो लाख करोड़ रुपए पूरा ऑल ओवर महाराष्ट्र से बैंक यूज करेगा 6 मंथ, तो उसका इंटरेस्ट वो बेनिफिट लेने वाला, हमारा जो लॉसेस हो रहा है उसको कौन सॉल्व करेगा? वो भी श्योरिटी कुछ नहीं दे रहे, वो लिख के भी नहीं दे रहे, जस्ट बोल रहे
सीनियर सिटीजन का एफडी अकाउंट है।
सीनियर सिटीजन क्या कर सकते हैं? दवाई के लिए पैसे नहीं है, खाने के लिए पैसे नहीं है, किधर जाएंगे? और हमारा इतना एफडी होने के बाद भी पैसा नहीं है, क्या फायदा?
Sanjana, you heard the voices here. People are, first of all, there are a couple of things. They don't have the clarity as far as up to what limit and how many times they are allowed to withdraw money. That clarity they don't have. Second, they are upset over the fact that there is no one from the authorities to give them a clear picture, and of course the panic about what will happen to their money.
Right, Sandhya, thank you so much for bringing us a picture of what the customers are saying. But let me also quickly bring in my colleague Mayuresh to understand the role of the government here and whether or not the state government or the centre can actually do anything. What have we heard so far, Mayuresh?
Certainly, when we had word with the corporation department, they clearly said that these banks are the cooperative banks, especially this particular bank is an urban cooperative bank. And that's why these banks run on guidelines of RBI. So cooperative department's role usually doesn't come in that. But the person with whom we had, the official with whom we had off-record chat, he clearly said that if RBI asks us to appoint any kind of observer or a regulator in this bank, then only will come into play and we will appoint it. But as these banks work on the RBI guideline, that's why state government's role is very much limited in this matter.
Right, Mayuresh, thank you so much for putting that in perspective. Let's actually listen in to a reaction that came in from the BJP earlier after this direction was announced.
पंजाब महाराष्ट्र कोऑपरेटिव बैंक में घोटाला हुआ है। रिजर्व बैंक ने सिर्फ 1,000 रुपए ही आप विड्रॉ कर सकते हो, ऐसा निर्णय लिया है। मैं रिजर्व बैंक के अधिकारी और फाइनेंस मिनिस्ट्री के अधिकारियों के साथ में चर्चा कर रहा हूं। जो छोटे निवेशक हैं उनके प्रोटेक्शन के लिए हम प्रयत्नशील हैं।
Let me quickly go back to my colleague Avni Raja, who's standing by in the Mumbai newsroom. Avni, the issue of the directions by the Reserve Bank should not per se be construed, as you rightly said, as cancellation of the banking license, because the bank will obviously continue to undertake banking business with restrictions till further notice. So give us an idea, say as a customer, how would that work? What services can one avail, and why the limit on this depositor money then?
Well, Sanjana, 2 parts to your question. Let me first explain why this kind of a limit on the depositor money at this point in time. So typically what happens when a bank at times is put on an RBI watch list, or if this information came out that there is some issue with the bank where the RBI is looking into it, what tends to happen is customers tend to, panic tends to set in, and customers probably rush to withdraw all their money from the bank, which then means the bank is anyway not left with anything to run its business, to run the operation. So to avoid a sudden downfall of the bank or a sudden situation where the bank is completely out of any depositor money, these kind of restrictions do get put in place. Now, the second part of the question is what the bank is really allowed to do right now. So aside from this 1,000 rupees limit that the bank can give out to customers for their deposits, it can renew existing term deposits on maturity, but it cannot accept any fresh deposits. So if I already have an existing deposit, fixed deposit with the bank, and I renew it, that can be done. And obviously that would have to be done, obviously, because nobody can withdraw more than 1,000 rupees. So even if I wanted to withdraw it, I wouldn't be allowed. So renewal of those deposits is allowed. The bank can also incur expenditure that is required for the day-to-day operations. That includes rent, taxes, electricity bills, printing, stationery, legal expenses, and other items where the day-to-day operation is where it's required to spend money for the day-to-day operations. But again, that also RBI has specifically given set of restrictions as to what amount it can't exceed, and all those kind of details the Reserve Bank has put in place. And it has very clearly said that all of this will be applicable for a period of 6 months, during which time the Reserve Bank will review the entire process and take a call whether it's necessary to ease off the restrictions or sort of what needs to be done next.
Right, Avni, thank you so much for putting that in perspective. Let's remember, we are looking over here at what's going to happen to the customers. What are their options? Let me quickly bring in Sucheta Dalal, Managing Editor of Money Life, Trustee Money Life India, joining us on the phone line. Good afternoon, Sucheta. Thank you so much for joining us on Mirror Now. Without prior approval, Sucheta, in writing from the RBI, the PMC Bank will not be able to grant any loans and advances, incur any liability, including borrowal of funds, acceptance of fresh deposits. So what does this mean for customers now?
First, what it means for customers is that their money is stuck, okay, because they can withdraw only 1,000 rupees. Now, if you ask me, I think this is a highly outrageous, because I have before me the annual report of the Reserve of the bank, PMC. It's a profitable bank. It made 100 crores of profits. It's declared an 11% dividend, which was going to be ratified 2 days later because its annual general meeting is on 28th September. So clearly this is not, unlike 99% of banks, and we warn people about putting money in cooperative banks, it's usually they're loss-making. I know examples where I have written to the RBI personally for decades, and I'm saying decades, from the 90s, which is like Mercantile Cooperative Bank, and RBI does nothing. So here's a profitable bank with not 1 or 2 crores of profit, 100 crores, 99.6 crore profit. It's got huge deposits, 11,000 crore, as against 11,600 crore of deposits. Its loans and advances are only 8,000 crore. Gross NPAs are only 3.76%, which is a fantastic number. And how on earth, or I would put it even stronger and say, how the hell did RBI take an action which hurts small people? And I hope somebody in this country, I hope there's an administration in the state that wakes up and says, what are the problems with the bank? If it is not money, you can't do something that penalizes people. What if a couple of people had died of a heart attack today? So I have cases like somebody tells me, a friend's friend who says 50 lakhs was deposited yesterday, his life savings. Now, can you imagine what a news like this will do? So we as Money Life Foundation and an NGO have been saying for the last several years that actions by regulators, actions by the government have to take into account investors and depositors and what they're going through. Why should you have 1,000 rupees? Now, suppose you have 1 lakh rupees in that bank. It really means that you will spend the next 6 months going and queuing up along with probably hundreds of people to withdraw 1,000 rupees. I would understand all of this. I mean, RBI is guilty over the decades of not doing anything when the bank is making losses. Okay? It is a profitable bank. Now, if you take action like this about a profitable bank, RBI has come out with a statement saying, why have they done this? Are the books completely fake? Are the books cooked up? Are they saying this is another Satyam where, everything is false? Or can we depend on an audited report in something that's regulated not by one but two entities, the Reserve Bank of India as well as the Department of Cooperative? And how do you take an action like this that puts thousands and thousands? And again, let me also bring in another factor, which is this particular bank is very different from a lot of cooperative banks because it used to, at least until a few years previously, have very high ethical standards. It is open almost 365 days a year. Every single person who has dealt with a bank has only positive things to say about people. So if this is a good, well-run bank, it is profitable. I don't think RBI can just issue a circular and get a apology from the MD. We need a statement. We need the RBI to come out, and your channel should be able to say this, that you cannot do this to depositors. You cannot. You have no right. There has to be regulatory responsibility. There has to be regulatory obligation, and you can't treat people like dirt because this is very hard-earned money. What happens to businesses where there's a story about somebody who deposited 10 lakh and he has to pay it forward. He's a businessman. What will he do with 1,000 rupees? Like a slap on his face. And we followed certain checks and balances. So we tell people, don't put money in cooperative banks, they're not properly regulated.
Right.
But if you do, please take a look at the annual report. So what do you tell a person who says, I'm looking at the annual report, it's a highly profitable bank, very low NPAs, and what the hell does RBI action mean? Is this like demonetization? That you'll just announce something overnight? I can't tell you how scandalized I am hearing this and also looking at the pain that people are going through, the number of SMSs that I've got. I know this professor with disabilities who does so much of work. She's got 30 lakh plus of family money in that account because it's right there. And she's a professor of management. She would have looked at the annual report. What has she done wrong? Why should the RBI make her suffer?
Right.
What are we supposed to depend on if not the chartered accountants and the annual report published?
Sucheta Dalal making some very pertinent points there. Avni, let me bring you in. I understand that you wanted to ask Sucheta something.
Yes, so Sucheta, this is Avni here. My question to you was this, just, taking forward the point that you mentioned about how money is stuck at this point of all these depositors. This is a three-page circular of restrictions that the RBI has put out for PMC Bank, and nowhere in the circular does it explain in any way as to why this is being done. Because like you pointed out, the financials, at least of March 2019, are pretty healthy. Nothing seems amiss over there. And the only line here it says is that the Reserve Bank of India is satisfied that in the interest of public, it is necessary to issue certain directions to this particular bank. That's the only one line that this entire circular mentions about why this was done. In your experience, we have seen banks being put under restrictions of the RBI earlier as well. But this kind of a limitation on the money of the customers, I don't think has been done very often. In your experience, has this happened in the past as well?
Not at all. You're completely wrong. The first thing that they do is put restrictions. So whether it's 1,000 rupees or 10,000 rupees a day, the first action from the RBI is always restrictions on money. And even when the banks are completely failed and they hardly have any money, they're sitting on depositors' money. So they reduce what you can withdraw. They claim it's to avoid a run on the bank. 1,000 rupees is a very small number, especially when the bank is profitable. The RBI is duty-bound to explain, because the only explanation for this kind of extremely strict... So I've known cases where you can withdraw 10,000 rupees, sometimes it's 2,000 rupees, but you're completely wrong. There's always restrictions on withdrawal. That's the first thing that happens when there's a moratorium. But here it's much smaller, it's 1,000. This is only justified if the entire accounts are cooked up. Or, like the Mercantile Bank after the Ketan Parekh scam, where, 1,000 crores was given away to Ketan Parekh and there was no money. So if there is an issue as big as that, and then that means that the entire financial numbers are fake, then this kind of action seems justified. Otherwise, when it shows profits on the book and it's audited, I feel the RBI is duty-bound to tell us why. It can't have this hidden one line, because one has to go by annual reports. There is a statutory basis for annual reports. They can't take this kind of action without an explanation. Just because the bank keeps quiet, the public shouldn't keep quiet. I hope we have some public representatives, MLAs and MPs who are going to open their mouth and ask this question on behalf of depositors.
Live. Thank you so much for speaking with us. Let me also quickly bring in Harsh Rungta, a noted financial planner, joining us on the phone line. Good afternoon, Harsh. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm seeing right now there are customers who are tweeting saying they had their savings stuck in the banks, and this will obviously throw a spanner in the works, considering we are heading into festive season, wedding season. So what are the options before the customers in that case then?
It is actually quite sad that, these kind of things happen. My point would be, as Sucheta was just saying, it isn't as if this particular bank was running at a loss. So there were not even warning signals in that sense at all. But more importantly, we have a deposit credit guarantee corporation, right, which guarantees it up to 1 lakh rupees. Whenever this kind of an action is to be taken by RBI, shouldn't it, in the interest of the smaller depositors, at least authorize some kind of interim payout from that direct rate? I mean, that is not there just to collect premiums from the bank. They should definitely also provide some interim relief, and that is how people will know that there is some kind of an insurance. So even if that relief was to be 25,000 or 50,000, that would, at least to the smaller deposit holders, that could really, really mean a lot. And I think very clearly some kind of a signaling system whereby, I mean, it isn't possible that the bank has turned bad overnight.
Right.
It is not possible.
Right.
So there must be some kind of a graded signaling system that should be put in place so that people become aware, and then you can say that they are taking risks on a considered basis.
Correct. Correct.
When you have an overnight something turning from good to bad,
right,
that is something that's not fair on the depositors.
Absolutely.
And with no interim payout from the DCGC, I think that's not fair at all.
Sure, sure. Harsh Rungta, financial planner, thank you so much for putting that in perspective. Graded signaling is the need of the hour, and especially now the Reserve Bank of India imposing these restrictions on the Punjab and Maharashtra Cooperative Bank for a period of 6 months. We're waiting on more clarity to see whether this withdrawal limit is over the period of 6 months or on a daily basis. Thank you so much for watching Mirror Now. And that's a wrap on the broadcast. Keep watching.